My name is Michael.
I'm Archie.
Welcome to Meow's YouTube channel. Today we're going to have a quick Q&A session for new game developers and people interested in the industry. I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. I started in actually visual effects before moving on to do R&D in games. I've also worked for hardware manufacturers. I moved to Japan in 2016, and ever since I've been working as a technical artist in the game industry. During the pandemic, I discussed a business idea with a friend of mine who's also with us here, and we decided to set up Meow, a startup company which is a service provider for the games industry, which is why we all gathered here to talk about games.
Yeah, I'm a recent graduate of game design and I've come here to be a technical artist assistant. I've been working at Meow for around 6 months now. Yeah.
We have a number of questions to cover today, and let's get started.
Michael, you're someone with a lot of experience in actual games companies and not me, so what can you tell me about like the AAA game development process from start to finish in like a concise manner?
Okay, so first of all, in terms of games development, a lot of things change and depend on the project. But what we usually have is start off with the planning process, which is where game designers gather with the game director, the producer, and talk about the initial idea. So how is the game going to play? What is the vision for the game?
I think I remember you telling me that sometimes the planning stage can last up for like months and months and months.
Absolutely, because the reason why it takes so long is because that's what's necessary to secure the budget to even go further, to get the green light to go into pre-production and then production.
Yeah.
So all of these stages we have, there are long diagrams including all of the sub-stages about alpha, beta, and we're going to link to that at the bottom of the video.
Nice.
But yeah, this is overall the process, I would say. Nowadays, I would say AAA games would be anything around tens of million dollars in budget, whereas quadruple games is a new term. You can argue about the value of that, but they could go over in hundreds of millions for the development budget, and then on top of that, same or even more in the marketing budget. I would say, again, it largely depends on the style of the game, as well as the size of the company. But since today we are mainly talking about AAA games, so I would say there's about 10 or so main departments, around half of that on the production side and half of that on the corporate side. And then with some other extras. The exact departments, pretty much every game would have an art department, engineering department. We would have QA, we would have localization. We also need a sound department. And then on the corporate side, every company would need HR, finance, payroll, IT, and legals. On top of that, some companies might want to do some research and development team. And yeah, there are more and more new teams actually, including outsource management, which is a new trend in the industry, I would say.
So in the art department, you could find stuff like a concept artist, a lighting artist, an environment artist. You might even find someone specifically there for making cinematics. And on top of that, maybe like UI, important not to forget UI. Yeah, so there's really loads of different ones inside art.
On the engineering side, you may find something like a gameplay programmer, a network programmer, a graphics engineer, engine programmer, and then depends on the company, but there are many UI programmers and more specialized programmers depending on the type of project that we are working on. What do you think are the skills or common skills that make a good games developer?
I think obviously for each different role there are hard skills that you could sit down and really focus and develop for specific programs, for example, so really learning Blender, really learning Photoshop or Unreal. However, coming into the games industry, I think it's important to work on your soft skills and skills that will benefit you in different discipline rather than on a specific program.
So for artists, I would say having the art fundamentals down is more important than knowing all the brushes in Photoshop. It's really the most important part, and the part that never changes is things like the principles of design, composition, anatomy, perspective drawing. These are the skills that people look in concept artists, but also 3D artists, because it's so important to understand things like color, things like proportions when you make game assets. Definitely, I would say at the core of being a technical artist is problem solving, and these problems tend to be just at the edge between graphics and engineering. So it really is difficult for both artists and programmers to solve these problems, because it requires a deep understanding of both disciplines. And that's really where technical artists shine.
I think as a junior tech artist, the main thing is problem-solving skills. It's really been getting used to being presented with something where I feel potentially out of my depth, but breaking it down into things I can understand. Obviously, as a junior, you have the ability to ask those people. I'm always asking Michael for help, and it's really like a learning process every day on problem-solving, debugging, and troubleshooting. But I think if you have, the relevant experience and a background of technical stuff and art stuff, so that engineering side, you need to have a basic fundamental understanding. However, there is so much to learn. I think as long as you have the drive and the passion on top of, the willingness to learn, even when you get presented with something that a lot of the time is quite daunting, I feel like. Coming into work and knowing I've got to solve this problem, which I really don't know how to do at the start of the day, but by the end of the day, maybe I've created a plan and a method. So I feel like the junior artist is, it's more, as long as you've got the fundamental background and you're ready to start learning and to try problem solving, then I think that's what the junior artist is encompassed by. How I solve them will change completely depending on whatever the challenge is. But some examples might be if shadows are flickering where I don't want them to be. I guess it really depends on each problem is going to have a completely different solution. So the daily challenge is really analyzing a problem that you get faced with and deciding what's the best way out of a plethora of different methods to solve it. I feel like we never have only one proposed solution to a problem, but instead lots of different solutions, and we have to pick the best one from them, or what we feel is the best one.
I would say in terms of larger production teams, there are questions coming from the art side and from the engineering side. And an example of an artist question would be something like how to make my art look good in the game engine. That's a lot of things. There are features missing. There are different settings in materials, which can be very technical. Also, what we get a lot is something like missing features. That could be, can I paint vertex colors on nanite meshes? And this is an actual software limitation that is very hard to overcome. And in some cases, we can't really go over those limitations with the current hardware. So what we need to do is find workarounds that will work for the title, but without adding a huge budget for R&D and engineering on top.
Okay, do I need higher education? I can't speak from a employer's perspective on whether it's a requirement. However, speaking on the skills that it gave me, I think it really did open my mind up to the different disciplines within game design, and it sort of kicked me into gear and sort of pushed me to begin doing what I wanted to do, but had struggled with self-motivation before when it came down to it and actually doing it. I think another thing it was really useful for was meeting other people within the game design, game development sphere with similar interests, or just that sort of networking which you might lack if you learn it all on your own. So from my perspective, I would say it's probably not necessary, but it definitely has its benefits.
Do you have any resources that you would recommend to people trying to break into the industry?
Yeah, so external to obviously my university course, which would have been my main body of information, I try to find media to interact with that I really enjoyed. And when it came to game design and development, one of those things was YouTube videos in the form of like those documentary style videos, those video essays they can be called as well. As well, podcasts, for example, I quite like those. It's really good to listen to people from the actual industry talking about their processes and what they go through. Again, on YouTube, you can find like SEDEC talks, the GDC obviously being the biggest, most famous one.
There are big, thick books in the industry that are classics. There are reference books such as, for animators, it might be something like the Animator's Survival Kit. For technical artists who want to get into shader writing, that might be something like the GLSL Orange book. And for programmers, that could be, for instance, a CG for Maths for CG book. Any good resource. One of them was written by John Binns. And then if you're interested in real-time graphics, then you might add top on real-time rendering, which is a reference book for anything rendering related.
So, do you think it's important to play games as a game developer?
I would say everyone in the industry will say yes and then proceed not to play games.
Yeah, if you have the time, it's important to play games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The biggest value, I would say, of playing games as a game developer is the ability to find context with other developers on the same team. So game development is extremely abstract as a discipline, and it is very hard to find any examples of, for instance, using a gamepad in any other context.
Right.
So we have to refer back to other games in order to explain our ideas and connect with other people about the reasons why we choose a certain decision, for instance.
My favorite part about game development on a day-to-day basis is solving a problem. Sometimes that's not day-to-day, it's a week-to-week if it's a difficult problem and it takes me too long. But the feeling of sitting down and working something out is really satisfying, and getting that end product. I think another satisfying part on maybe a broader scale is receiving that delayed feedback on maybe somebody has used a tool I've created, or played a game you've made and you watch them enjoy it, or you see your tool is of use. If I want to be a technical artist, where do I start? It's going to be hard for me to answer this question, but I guess I would say similar to any other points in creative industry is portfolio work and being able to show people, anyone, where do you start? Well, you want to go look for jobs. How do you look for jobs? You find them, and what do they want? They want portfolio work. They want proof that you care, proof that it's something you're actually interested in.
What I see happening in the future is that since gaming is really at the forefront of real-time graphics and no other industry is pushing the capabilities of GPUs as much as gaming is, I think it has an incredible potential to move all that technology into places like healthcare, education, and other industries around it.
Yeah, I think I see so much space for games. I can't imagine the industry is going to slow down or stop at any point in the future.
We publish other content related to technical art, game industry, programming, AAA games, anything related. If you're interested in more of that, please follow us, subscribe to our channel, and check out our website for more and more content on that. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.